Hi everyone, this is Nikki Jones, and this is the sixth segment of my testimony. I apologize about my fourth and fifth segments. I didn't show any pictures of, say, myself or my family during that time, and I apologize because I do like to show you pictures from that time period so you can kind of have a visual to kind of connect with what I'm talking about. The first one I'm going to show you is a picture of me with my sister, my little sister at Judson College. This is from Christmas Teen Vespers. This is actually um, back in 2000 when I was a senior. This is another picture when I was a senior. This is Rose Sunday, and this is with my little sister. At Judson College, we are an all-women's college. We're located in Marion, Alabama. And so we didn't have, since we're all-women's college, things were set up a bit differently. We didn't have your typical sororities. We had different, like, families, animal families. And I was in the pig family. In fact, there was a furry pig family, but I wasn't in the furry pig family. I was just in your regular pig family. But we, I liked it because I did go to an all-women's college. The only time that there would be, say, a guy in my class was if there was a cadet from Marion Military Institute. Say they weren't offering a course that, say, they wanted to take, they could take it at Judson, or say, for instance, we wanted to take something that they were offering there, we we could take it over there with other cadets. It was nice. I liked it because it was a smaller college, and of course I lived on campus, and it was just really nice. It wasn't as big a campus as, say, if you would go to other colleges, so it was kind of much more of a close-knit community, and I liked that. This is a picture from my college graduation, and this is a picture after graduation. This was with my dad and my brother and I. And this is a picture with my big sister. The first two were with my little sister, Heather, and this is with my big sister, Jennifer. And as I said, we were in the pig family. And I graduated on June 30th of 2001. And this is a picture. I was actually between my freshman and junior sophomore year at Judson. This was actually in the summer. I would start in August, and then the spring semester would finish up in April. I would come home for like about a week or two, then we'd start the summer term. So I always went summers. All 3 years that I attended, I went summers in order for me to be able to graduate a year early. So I had just finished up. May and June was the summer term, and so in late June the summer term would be done, and then I would get off, say, in July and some of August, and then I would go back to college. So this was probably in July of 1999. I had just finished up my freshman year and the first summer term of college, and I have my Kirtley shirt on. I actually lived in the Kirtley dormitory. That's the freshman dorm, and that was my shirt when I lived at Kirtley Hall. And of course, that's my brother and that's my dad. And these were the apartments that we lived in at Summit Ridge Apartments. We lived in apartment D7, and it was on Hilton Drive. And these were the ones that I told you. My dad had a hard time paying the rent, and he had already quit his job. And so he had quit his job several months um, before this picture was taken. In fact, it had been probably about a year since he quit his job. So that year was really hard financially for us. This picture right here was November of 2002. I had already graduated Judson College, and I think we had just moved from Summit Ridge Apartments, and we had moved to North Village townhomes, and it was on the Petersville Florence line, and we lived in apartment A1. And I would always joke that I could remember I lived in apartment A1 because of A1 steak sauce, which, by the way, I do like. This is a picture that was taken for our church directory. I do not have the picture of my dad, which I really wish that I had, but this is, I was 24 years old, and this was probably 6 to 8 weeks taken before my dad died. I do, however, have the picture in the directory with my dad and with me, and I will show that. I'm hoping I can show it pretty good because it's in the directory. But this right here is my dad. That was him, and it was literally taken probably 6 to 8 weeks before he passed away for the church directory. And of course, you see me right beside it. But there's me and my dad right there. There's my dad, and there's me. And no, it's not the best picture, but this is the church where my uncle was, Uncle Larry was pastor of. It was originally called North Village Baptist Church, and while my uncle was there, they renamed it the Village Baptist Church. And this is a picture of the Village Baptist Church. And this is a church where I was baptized as an adult. And now, since I've kind of gotten some pictures from when I would have showed you from, say, installments or segments 4 and 5, I'm going to move on to our new segment 6. And I know I talked about my heart surgery last time, but I am going to rewind back to October of 2005. I had just moved down from Florence, Alabama to Birmingham, Alabama. I moved in with my Uncle Elliot and my Aunt Roxy since I was having health problems. I was having financial problems. I had lost my dad the year before. My brother had been having a lot of problems. I just had a heavy load on me, and so they just wanted me to be able to regroup and get well, get healthy, and try to get better back financially on my feet as well. So they were very kind, and they let me live with them. And I had told my aunt I was still when I before I moved, I was still going to the Village Baptist Church, and I told her I said that I wanted to attend the church that she and my Uncle Elliot were attending, because I said I do want to be active and involved in the church, but I have no idea any of the churches in Birmingham, so I will be more than happy to go with y'all to church. And so she said, that's great. And she says, your Uncle Elliot and I go to Dawson Memorial Baptist Church in Homewood, and we would love for you to come to church with us. So it was October the 23rd of 2005 was the first time that I visited their church, and I had just moved down to their house. I had to rent a storage building, obviously, to put my stuff, but I had already moved some of my clothes in, but I hadn't gotten everything I was gonna put in their house yet. They let me stay upstairs. So I was kind of limited on what I could wear that Sunday. I remember I wore a nice blue skirt suit, and it was a navy blue. And I remember I actually rode with them to church because I had no idea how to get there by myself. And by the way, I mean, I am much better at directions than I used to be. But when I was younger, I was terrible with directions and would get lost quite frequently. So, needless to say, I rode with them to church that Sunday. And at Dawson, they had I don't know if they've changed it up since then, but at the time they had a contemporary service. I believe it was at 8 o'clock. Then they had a traditional service at 9:30 and another traditional service at 11 o'clock. And my aunt and uncle, they would go to Sunday school at 8 o'clock, and then they would go to the traditional 9:30 worship service. Well, that Sunday, I went to the 8 o'clock contemporary service, and I sat by my cousin Melissa at that service. And then after that, I went to Sunday school in the 9:30 hour. And there was a girl that I was introduced to, and she walked me up to the class, and we had a little chit chat. I mean, she seemed, nice enough. But when I entered the room, and I think that everyone would agree, when you're new, it's kind of three different scenarios. You can either have a scenario where you light up the room and everyone is drawn to you. You can also have a scenario where you kind of just blend in, fade in the background, and nobody really notices you. Or you can be like me. You can have the third scenario. You can go in and you seem like you're the big fat elephant in the room. When I went in, I had a nice business suit on. It was a nice business looking skirt and top and shoes. And sorry, my 4-year-old came in, but I had a nice business suit, nice shoes, hair nice and done, and I guess that the people, I don't know what it was. It was like I was the big fat elephant in the room. Besides that one young woman that talked to me for a little bit, I kind of got these weird looks like, who is this and why is she invading our Sunday school room? And I don't know what it was. I know that some people are more shy and they don't like strangers, but I didn't get a good greeting. And thankfully it wasn't, I arrived not too long before class started, and I really enjoyed the lesson. I mean, it was about Jesus's 12 disciples and them kind of, I guess, breaking it down and doing a deep study of each disciple. I thought it was great. I think they were doing a series. And I wouldn't have minded sticking around and finishing up the series, but I didn't. Because I will say this, right before they finished up, this lady came up, and I know she played a role in the church, but I don't remember exactly if she was Sunday school director or whatever. But she came up and she was talking about, oh, I'm sure that Nicky's going to come back and visit the Sunday school class. I'm sure that she's felt so welcomed by you all. And I was thinking to myself, please don't be saying this, because I don't want to visit again. And of course, not long after that, they let Sunday school class out, and sure enough, nobody else came up to talk to me, and they were in their little cliques, and so I was able to sneak out pretty easily without anybody even really saying anything to me. And so I met my aunt and uncle. I rode back home with them, and of course they asked me how it went, and I was saying, well, the truth of the matter is, I didn't feel very welcomed, but I am willing to try another Sunday school class. I'm not going to give up. And so she talked to two of my cousins, and they told her for me to try out Steve Donaldson's class the next Sunday. And so the next Sunday, instead of riding with my aunt and uncle, I took my car because I would be on a different schedule from them because they went to Sunday school at 8 o'clock and then they went to the 9:30 traditional service. Well, that on October 30th of 2005, it was the next Sunday. That Sunday, I would be going to the 9:30 Sunday school class and the 11 o'clock traditional service. And so I remember arriving early, and I think, in fact, I was the first one to arrive. I knew I had the right classroom because they had his name outside the door that was his class. And so I sat in there, and as people came one by one trickling in, I introduced myself, and I had made a couple of conversations with everybody that came in. They were very welcoming and kind, and I remember that this one gentleman came in and he stood across the opposite side of the room. And I'm not lying, I'm for real when I say this. I felt like the Holy Spirit told me, "You have got to meet him. You've got to meet this guy." And I remember when I first saw him, I was thinking, he kind of gave me this look like he thought I was, I guess, a snob or something, or that he was shy, or I don't know, like he was maybe scared to meet me. But then he came around, and I remember introducing myself. I said, "Hi, my name is Nicky Horton." And I said, "Do you go to college anywhere? Or have you finished college?" And he said, "My name is Joshua Jones, and I graduated UAB in 2002. And I said, "Oh, well, I graduated Judson College in 2001. And then I remember he sat down about 3 seats from me. And I don't remember everything that we talked about, but I remember him saying something to the effect of, "Well, when my dad was alive, he liked to go fishing." And I said, "Oh, you lost your dad." "I've lost my dad. I lost my dad too." And he said, "Well, actually, I've lost both my parents." And I said, "Oh, I've lost both my parents too." And he immediately got up and sat right next to me. And we started talking. And then, Steve Donaldson, he had come in like maybe a minute or two before. And we got started and everything. And I remember they were doing a study on one of C.S. Lewis's books. I think it was the Screwtape Letters, I believe, but they were doing a series of talking about one of C.S. Lewis's books. And I didn't have the book since it was my first Sunday, and Josh, he let me look on with him. And then after that, I followed him up to the balcony area and I sat with him. And he had asked me would I like to ride over with him to Moe's, because after church on Sundays, most Sundays, the Sunday school class would get together and have Sunday afternoon lunch. And so I did. And then after we ate, we came back to the parking deck, and we probably talked another hour to hour and a half. And then the next Sunday, I went back to the class, and I remember walking down the basement steps, and then I remember I turned to the left, and then Josh, he called, "Hey, Nicky," and he called from the right because I was fixing to go down the wrong way because I couldn't remember what side the class was on. Hey, repetition is my friend. But anyway, I came to him, and then we gave each other a hug. I was like, "Hi, Josh." And he's like, "Hi, Nicky." And sat beside each other and sat by him in church. And I rode with him, and we went to Jim and Nick's with our Sunday school class. And I remember right before we left, I told him that I needed to go to the bathroom. Would he mind holding my purse? And he's like, "I'll always hold your purse." And then drove back to the parking deck. And the cool thing about it was, after we finished lunch, we stayed in that parking deck until cars started coming in the parking deck. And this is the parking deck at Dawson Baptist Church. And they were coming for evening service, which was at 6 o'clock. Well, we stayed in the parking deck through evening service, and people were still leaving, and we were still talking. And so, right before I was to leave, I remember opening my car door. I sat down in the driver's seat. Josh knelt down by the driver's side door, and we were talking, and we had this like love at first sight kind of moment. And he even told me, he said the first week he knew I was something special, but by the second week he knew that he was gonna marry me. And I told him, I said, yeah, I said the first time that I really felt when I first saw you, I feel like God told me, he's like, you have to see this guy. He's something special. I mean, I felt like he was cueing me and saying, this is going to be your husband. And sure enough, I mean, after that second Sunday, Josh asked me out on quote unquote the first official date, and the rest is history. But I always say when someone asks me, I mean, we've been together literally since October 30th of 2005. I consider it from the first day because that was it. And we got married on April the 25th of 2008. I'm going to show you some pictures from when we were dating. This is a picture of me and Josh. We were outside Whistle Stop Cafe in Irondale. And by the way, they have some good food and some really good fried green tomatoes. This is really not long after we had started dating. This was in 2005. We had been dating probably about a month and a half, 2 months. So we were newly dating. That first picture I showed you was back, I think in probably late 2006, early 2007. I love this picture. This is a picture when Dawson was doing their directory back in 2007. This is some pictures that we took. Now, mind you, we weren't married yet, so I had a picture taken just separately of me, and he had a picture taken separately of him for the directory, but we had this taken for us to have. And on April 25th of 2008, we got married in downtown Birmingham at the courthouse because we didn't have parents to help us pay for a wedding since both of our parents had passed away before we had even met. So we decided that we would put the money that we had on like furnishing our apartment and just any type of newlywed expenses that we might have. So we did have a minister marry us, but we did get married at the courthouse. I have a couple of pictures from that day. This is right outside the courthouse. I think this is right after we said our vows. Yeah, it was, because I remember my sister-in-law took this picture. And this is a picture with our wedding rings. And I will show you this. I may talk about this event a little bit later, but Josh and I, we renewed our wedding vows in 2012, and I wore the same dress that I wore when I got married. And here's another picture when we renewed our vows in 2012. And by the way, I still have the dress. And my girls, they like to wear it and put it on. Especially my Hannah, who's almost 5. She likes to wear the dress and put it on. But even though we got married at the courthouse, my cousin was really nice. My cousin Melissa, she had us a reception a month later. We went to her house and she had a wedding cake for us, and we got presents from my mom's side of the family, and like gift cards and stuff, and it really did help a lot. And when I was working at the time at Kirkland Clinic in downtown Birmingham in the pulmonary department, and uh, I had just worked in there probably 4 months, and they were really nice, and they gave us $100 so to help us get things that we needed for our apartment. Josh, he'd been living in the Vestavia Garden Apartments, and he only had a 1 bedroom, 1 bath. Well, I knew that that wouldn't be. It was a very small apartment. It wouldn't fit my stuff too. So the landlord told him about a 3 bedroom, 2 bath apartment that she had, and so we just moved his stuff into the 3 bedroom, 2 bath, and I moved my things out of my aunt's house, and then also the things out of the building, so I wouldn't have a building fee. And we did that, and we liked it. It was 3 beds, 2 baths. It was a nice apartment. They've renamed those apartments. They're called the V apartments now. And we couldn't afford them now because they've really jacked up the rent. They've renovated them and they've jacked it up really like super high. In fact, I think if I remember correctly, when I looked online, the rents on what we paid $650 a month. They've jacked it up to like I think $1,200 and something dollars for the same apartments. So yeah, that's very expensive, and it wouldn't be big enough now that we have 5 kids. Uh, but anyway, it's good to reflect back on, because I guess what I want to say now is, right before I met my husband, I kid you not, I had dated a few people. I hadn't dated a whole lot. Basically, everybody I dated, I could pretty much count on one hand. But I had dated, and I had been set up a few times by people. And the thing is, I'm not one that could date a different guy every night. I wear my heart on my sleeve, and when I date, I always dated with the intention of, could I marry this person? And so I took it very seriously. And I remember the summer of 2005, just I'd say a couple months before I met Josh, I had told God, I said, I'm tired of being set up by people, and I'm tired of getting my heart broken. And I told him, I said, if you do have someone for me, will you please set me up? Because people will get it wrong, but you never get anything wrong. And I trust you, God. And if you have someone for me, please set me up with the right person. And little did I know that when I moved, it wouldn't, I mean, literally, within, I would say, not the first Sunday, the second Sunday, I would meet my husband, and I met him in Sunday school. So if you haven't met the right person yet, please put it in God's hands, because, um, you know, people can get it wrong. And not to say, there are times when God will use the right person to set you up, to help you, help you to meet the person that He has for you. He can work it in different ways. But in my case, people had tried to set me up, and they were setting me up with the wrong people. And like I said, it's not to say that He can't use someone to help you meet the right person, because He can do that too, and I know that has worked. But for me, it wasn't working, and so I just put it in God's hands, and I met the right person, and we've been married 11 years. We've been together almost 14 years. It'll be 14 years October the 30th. And on October 25th, we'll be married 11 and a half years. And Josh has been such a blessing, and he's such a wonderful husband and father. And I can't thank God enough for such a wonderful husband. And if you are looking for someone, just leave it in God's hands, and He will never steer you wrong. And thank you for listening, and I pray you have a blessed night.